In another time, and in another place, lies the distant and fantastic world of Ch.4, and within, the place of my birth. Dantavish, Jewel of the Sands. A city of kings and conquerors, of men and monsters. My name is General Judah Dante, and it is here that I have forged a privileged life of family, wealth, and status. But there is an evil that stirs from within the heart of the kingdom, a bloodthirsty cult of dark sorcerers known as the Abyssinian Warlocks. They have an iron grip on Dantavish, and no one, not even the king, will challenge their authority. But there's something malevolent on the horizon. Ch.4, demon lord of the fifth realm of the abyss and patron god of the Abyssinian Warlocks, is planning to bring about a hellish apocalypse. Only I and my motley band of loyal soldiers stand in his way. Together, we must face every type of demon, ghoul, and supernatural fiend if we hope to save our world. For we are the warriors of Ch.4.
As the gates open and the envoy begins their procession into Dantavish, King Marcian, Miriam, Thelio, Ch.4, and a host of his own royal entourage sit high above in a throned balcony near one of the center squares. Down below, the streets are filled with bystanders of nearly all walks of life. Blacksmiths, merchants, teachers, and just about everything in between made up the cheering denizens that welcomed the general's return. People stood shoulder to shoulder, braving the hot sun, just to get a glimpse of Judah Dante. Queen Miriam looks down, taking in the sweet smell of the marketplace vendors' fig cakes and the cart seller's date beer. She waves her palm branch in the air as she smiles.
You know, we should really make a formal offering to the One Superior for the General's safe return to us.
Marcian clenches his fist as he looks over to Thelio, then back over to Miriam.
Mother, please. Dantavish follows a new way now. The way of Ch.4. We cannot allow ourselves to be embroiled in heresy with such words.
You would call the praise of a supreme being as heresy?
I am in no mood to engage in a religious debate with you, Mother. Just enjoy the parade, won't you?
Marcian, there is no debate to be had. For thousands of years, Dantavish was devoted to the ways of the One Superior, and now you...
Now is not the time, Mother. No, I hear no more of it. Your king has spoken,
says Marcian, swiftly getting up from his throne and cutting his mother off. Miriam breathes hard and looks back out into the streets, having been defeated for the moment. Thelio smiles deviously as he speaks up.
If His Highness permits, I shall excuse myself. I have to prepare the proper tributes to Ch.4 in the main temple before sundown.
Marcian looks over and dismissively waves Thelio off. The warlock bows his head and starts to make his way off the balcony when he is stopped by Ch.4. who whispers to him.
Anything I should know about?
Tell me, when was the last time you encountered a doomed viper Khufu? Rumor has it they can be quite dangerous,
says Thelio as he looks Khufu directly in the eye. Khufu then laughs in a low and throaty chuckle.
Come up with that on the fly, did you? But what of the king? We need him alive for the ceremony after all.
I was never one to let a perfectly good opportunity go to waste, and you needn't worry about unwanted damages. However, just for good measure, when the rumbling starts, be sure to get the royal fool and yourself to more secure quarters. Now, if you'll excuse me,
says Thelio as he pushes past the other warlock on his way down the steps. Meanwhile, the parade continues down the thoroughfare as the cheers of the crowd thunder on unabated. Dmitri waves in his usual self-absorbed fashion as Gabriellan just shakes his head in dismay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware this parade was thrown for you.
Dmitri continues to wave, oblivious to his brother's sarcastic needling.
I was just checking the crowds. Did you happen to see old man Amal's daughter? My goodness, how she's blossomed, eh?
He says as he cups his hands in front of his chest, obviously referencing a certain part of the female anatomy.
But better yet, she's got to be at least 20 by now. I may have a replacement for Kyra after all, if you know what I mean.
Let me ask you something, brother. Just how many illegitimate children do you have running around that you just don't know about?
Oh, see, there's a special trick to that. Now, when you're with a woman and the both of you are in the deepest throes of passion and you feel yourself approaching that top of the mountain, I find that the best procedure is to eject slowly. Now start gyrating your hips at a certain angle, and when you feel it pop right out of...
Oh, never mind. Sorry I even asked.
Shouts Gabriellan, not wanting to partake in any more of Dimitri's obscene imagery. The younger Sangreal laughs as Gabriellan rides further up through the procession.
Remember, brother, I can show you everything you need to know in a single night. Guaranteed.
Nearby, Malachi is generally overwhelmed by the experience. Never before has he seen such a massive gathering. As he looks around, he seems genuinely impressed with the size, scope, and splendors of Dantavish. The central palace that loomed high in the distance, the immense marketplace that rimmed the thoroughfare that he now travels, and the grand pyramid temples lined with gold and ebony. All of it dwarfed anything he had ever seen back in Rendaris. But one sight that does cause him concern are the numerous Tetharian banners that hang on nearly every dwelling and structure. The odd symbol was not much more than a painted eye with two black markings above and below that delineated the four cardinal directions. Yet somehow the glyph was off-putting to the young warrior, as evidenced by the sudden scowl on his face, after which he rides in closer to his uncle.
It seems even here that accursed symbol flies, Captain. It isn't just in Rendaris.
So I've noticed. The only difference is here it seems to be far more prevalent,
says Gideon as the envoy nears the center square where Marcian awaits on his throne. Both Gideon and Danae marvel at the excitement of the crowd, as they never expected this kind of reception.
Forgive me for asking, General, but who exactly is king here? Be it Marcian or Dante?
Asks Danai, giving Judah a telling glance. Judah responds with a confused gaze.
I don't know what you mean, Monarch.
Oh, don't you play the fool, Judah. You really mean to tell us that Marcian managed to conjure all this up just for theatrics? This crowd is obviously here for you. Just look at how they swoon. That kind of adoration, well, that's hard to fake.
I'm nothing more than a simple soldier, Gideon. I'm loyal to my city and to my people. As general, my foremost duty is to protect them,
says Judah, seemingly uncomfortable to even speak on the subject.
Well, clearly that has resonated powerfully with the people, my dear General.
As I said, I just do my duty, Monarch. I don't want nor do I need any special recognition. Besides, I get all that from my wife and children, huh?
He says, smiling, successfully lightening up any kind of somber energy that may have been present. Danai smiles back, fully understanding where he was coming from.
A persuasive diplomat, a brave soldier, and a grateful family man. A triple threat if there ever was one.
Meanwhile, as Arif waited atop the balcony at the inn, along with Dendera and Joel, he gazes down casually into the crowd, and he zeroes in on a curious sight. Only a few feet away he sees Thelio, aggressively pushing his way past the hordes of people. The elder Jin Yang narrows his eyes, tracking the warlock through the crowds, as he strokes his long beard.
Just what are you up to, Warlock?
At that moment, he makes a split-second choice and decides to follow the sinister high priest as he taps his daughter's shoulder before heading to the stairway.
I'm just going to check on something, dearest. I promise I'll be right back.
We'll check on what, Father? Are you all right?
Yes, I'm fine, dearest. I'll just be a moment.
But you might miss seeing Judah.
Well, even if I do, I'll surely see him later this evening. But do not fret, I will be right back, as I told you,
says Arif as he darts down the stairs, leaving the two women bewildered. The Xinjiang elder then maneuvers through the encroaching crowd with surprising agility, as he is determined not to lose Thelio. Over the next quarter passage of an hourglass, Arif chases the warlock through the inner twisting streets of Dantavish, very careful not to be seen. The passages and open streets were nearly empty as everyone was apparently at the parade's attendance. Arif follows Thelio to an abandoned complex, all but hidden behind a remote stretch of back alleyways. The group of buildings here were crumbling and, by all appearance, looked to have been totally forgotten. There is an eerie silence that hangs in the air, and Arif could hear the whisper of the breeze and every creaking piece of wood that rotted on the door frames. Thelio walks through a nondescript back door into one of the buildings. Arif waits several moments before following. He cautiously enters and finds a dark interior only lit by a single beam of daylight shining through one of the upper windows. The inside was completely barren, as even the floors had been eaten away by the ravages of time, leaving nothing but the desert sand on the ground. A few statues lined the walls, most of their features disintegrated away by erosion and appear incredibly ancient, as if from some bygone era of Dantavish's past. Weird and obtuse markings cover the withered walls as Arif's attention is drawn to a giant hieroglyph near one of the headless statues. It depicts a fanged demon with swirling flames around its goblin-like head.
Well, I know this symbol. By the One Superior, what is this place?
He asks in a hushed whisper as a faint bang causes him to snap his head in the direction of a dark opening in the floor a few yards away. Arif almost tiptoes his way over, ever careful not to make any noise. The dark opening leads to a pitch-black descent into a set of caverns on a lower level.
Oh, Arif, you fool. What have you gotten yourself into now?
He slowly walks down the sandstone set of stairs and into the darkened caverns below. As the older man approaches the bottom of the steps, a faint chanting can be heard in the distance, emanating from much deeper within the cavern. Arif walks deeper into the expanse, the walls now lined with the soft glow of several torches. As he reaches the source of the chanting, Arif sees the cavern terminates in a large open room with several ancient arches and pillars supporting a ceremonial altar of some kind. At the front of the altar stands another crumbling statue which resembles the giant hieroglyph he'd seen earlier. Sitting at the statue's base is Thelio, his hands outstretched and deep in a prayer-like trance.
Why, in the name of everything holy, 'tis the edifice of Kython. Oh, may the One Superior grant me protection in this place.
The older man whispers as Thelio once again begins to chant, causing Arif to quietly take cover behind a nearby pillar. He watches in awestruck terror as the Abyssinian warlock suddenly opens his eyes mid-chant, only to reveal that both are now midnight black in color, a viscous black liquid liberally seeping out of his tear ducts and running down his cheeks. Thelio opens his mouth and horrifically begins to gurgle up the same black fluid, only in more copious amounts. The liquid starts to pool in a large puddle in the sand below. After several moments of literally vomiting and crying out this tar-like substance, Thelio reaches down and begins to mingle the sand with the black liquid, and he slowly starts to shape a serpent-like creature out of the concoction of sand and muck. The warlock stands the little sand model upright until it takes the resemblance of a reared-up serpent, its mouth wide open in a menacing posture.
Arise.
Meanwhile, the parading envoy finally reaches the center square, directly underneath the throne balcony where the king is seated at. Judah raises his arm and signals the caravan to halt. Marcian stands up and takes his mother's hand as both of them walk to the edge of the balcony. Judah hops off his mount and is followed by Danai and Gideon. The three of them then ceremoniously drop to one knee.
We are overjoyed at your return, General. Both the Queen Matriarch and I receive you joyously.
Please, General, you as well as your honored guests, rise,
says Miriam as the three of them stand to their feet, just before Judah speaks up.
I humbly thank His Highness and Her Majesty. I am glad to be back in my beloved city and even more honored to present to you Danai, the reigning monarch of Rendaris, to which you sent me to secure peace,
says Judah as Danai steps forward and bows her head in respect.
For I am most honored to come before you, King Marcian and Queen Matriarch. Also allow me to introduce Gideon, my royal captain of the guard.
We are at your service, great rulers. Rendaris brings you many tidings, gifts, and tribute as a sign of our mutual goodwill.
It is we who are honored, great monarch, that you would make such a journey and your commitment to a final peace pact between Dantavish and Rendaris.
For you and your entourage shall be treated to nothing but the very finest of Dantavian hospitality, great monarch. For while you are here, it is we who are your humble servants.
Most kind of you both. We look forward to our prosperous talks towards goals of cooperation and brotherhood.
I hereby declare 3 days of feasting and jubilation for our honored guests throughout the entire empire. Let this be a grand celebration for all of our people of both kingdoms.
Shouts Marcian to the loud cheers of the citizens when suddenly a light trembling is felt throughout the sandy ground. Everyone stops in their tracks to look around. Atop the throne balcony, Ch.4 immediately takes hold of the king's shoulder.
Come, my lord, we must get you to safety.
Why? It was just a small tremor.
No, your majesty, for I feel I've just had a vision from Ch.4.
A vision of what exactly?
Asks Marcian, his eyes narrowing. However, the warlock quickly brushes off the question as he motions for several other servants to usher the king down the stairs.
It was vague and hazy, but I clearly felt an ill omen. But come now, we must not question the word of Ch.4. Hurry now, all of you. We must get His Highness to safer quarters. Move, now!
The servants waste no time and hurriedly rally around the king, moving him swiftly off the balcony. Ch.4 looks back and spots Miriam, who has not noticed his actions until now. She looks back just in time to see her son being ushered off by his servants. The warlock smiles deviously under a ceremonial mask before following the fleeing king downward and out of sight.
What is going on? Marcian, where are you going?
Miriam asks as she quickly makes her way over to the top of the stairs. She sees Marcian disappear through an adjoining hallway closely flanked by Ch.4. Another servant approaches the queen and tries to forcefully get her to descend the stairs as well.
Come, your majesty. It's not safe here.
Wait. When have they taken the king?
I don't know, my queen. I assume to more stable quarters, which is where we must get you, now!
Hold on. Now I want to know what is happening.
Shouts Miriam as she tries to resist the multitude of servants that have now gathered around her and eventually succeed in gently pushing the queen to climb down the stairs to relative safety. Meanwhile, back on the street level, Gideon kneels and feels the sandy ground, trying to get a fix on the odd trembling.
What in the name of Kel Kadesh was that?
I'm not exactly sure,
says Judah as another tremor is felt vibrating its way through the street, causing dusty debris to be shaken loose from the surrounding buildings. The crowd begins to grow uneasy as an unnatural silence hangs in the air.
Well, it might have been just a tremor, but I don't think there's been a sandquake in Dantavish for over 100 years.
Judah's keen eyes focus in on some of the moving pebbles and miniature vibrating sandhills as his dread begins to mount.
Something is not right.
What? What is it you sense, Judah?
Asks Dmitri, fear cracking through his voice.
Yes, I'm beginning to feel it as well.
Feel what? What are you two talking about?
Everyone clear the streets now. Get into a shelter as quickly as possible.
Judah shouts as alarm sets in through the crowd. No sooner does Judah issue the warning than a portion of the desert ground collapses into a monstrous sinkhole beneath a large part of the middle of the caravan. A set of enormous fangs suddenly bursts out of the ground, and 5 riders along with their horses are swallowed whole within the gaping maw. A titanic serpentine-like creature erupts out of the sand, hissing in a demonic screech, unleashing complete chaos amongst the fleeing hordes of humanity that begin to scatter in every direction.
Hurry! Get the monarch to safety! No!
Yells Gideon as he huddles Danai into a company of the few of the Rendarin guardsmen who usher her into an adjoining cantina. Gideon looks up, completely dumbstruck to see a monstrous cobra-like monster towering overhead. The creature stands at least 100 feet tall, with saber-like fangs that drip an oozing black liquid. Its color was that of a brownish gold hue, its oversized scales bristling in the desert winds. It had 2 sets of eyes, the main pair resembling that of a typical reptile, the second pair much smaller in size and located directly behind the main set on either side. Its pink and forked tongue whipping in and out of its scale-encrusted mouth. Dimitri stands off at a distance, he and Gabriella looking up at the creature with the same awestruck horror as Gideon.
Gabe, tell me I'm not looking at a mirage and that actually is...
A giant dune viper. By the One Superior, I do think we're in trouble.